All right, so we are tonight graced by the presence of Anjali Kumar. She is currently at Warby Parker, and I'm just going to give you a little intro. I'm going to backstory us a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. So Anjali and I met, I don't even know, like 2 years ago?
Probably 2 or 3 years ago.
2 or 3 years ago. Both new-ish moms. We can't remember who introduced us, which is kind of strange, actually. But we had a lovely connection, and we haven't seen each other since. So what brought us back into orbit was this class. And at the beginning of the semester, as I was curating the speakers, Warby Parker was a company that I was really interested in having come to talk in some form or fashion, somebody from the company. And I'll explain why. But reached out to the company through Neil, and received an email back saying, "Oh, well, this would be great. We'll have Anjali Kumar come speak. She's the head of social innovation and general counsel for the company." So, oh my God, Anjali! And so we've had a really lovely. We've already been catching up by email and just sort of reacquainting ourselves. And I was also sort of thrilled by the idea, because when I met Anjali, she was at Google. Give me a title at Google.
Senior counsel. What's my title?
Okay, senior counsel at Google. Yeah, she's so badass. And yeah. And I love the idea that she had. I wanted to hear, and tonight was going to be an opportunity to hear what it was about Warby Parker and the role she has now at Warby Parker that was intriguing enough to jump ship from Google, which, you know, from the outside at least, like, I mean, and from the inside I hear, a great place to work. And Warby Parker, for me, is a beacon of hope, I would say. And in the circles that I run in, and probably you too, there's a lot of talk these days about a post-capitalist society. Like post-capitalism is sort of the buzzword at the moment. And a lot of people are talking about it, but nobody knows what that means exactly. Well, maybe there's some people who know what it means, but the vision is still sort of unclear. It's like it's forming. And I feel like companies like Warby Parker are really taking us there. You know, they're sort of role models in a way. And for many reasons, one, it's a pretty new company. So without a lot of baggage, this company, and this is part of what I'd love to talk about, you know, how the company, the philosophies, the actions, the decisions that were made to do things differently, to disrupt. And so if you read any of the articles, and I hope you did, that we posted, the company's gotten a lot of attention, partly because it's just like it's just such a simple, great idea, and people love that. And also because I think other people see it as a beacon of hope and like a little bit of a progression on the an evolutionary step in commerce. And so we're really thrilled to hear from Anjali tonight and to talk about some of these things. And if we have time, or if I can weave it in effectively, I'm going to bring in some of your fantastic article, the Medium article about From Google to God, just because I think that's sort of integral to being great at your job too, you know, at working and living your values at the same time. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay.
What do you got?
No, really not serious at all. My mind is so mushy these days. It's the children. We love it.
I know. I didn't mean that child. Having a child, they take a part of your brain and you never quite get it back.
It's true. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is a simple one to start. I would love for you just to describe your role at Warby Parker. I mean, what do you do as the head of social innovation?
Sure. So does everyone know what Warby Parker is? Some glasses. Glasses, that's right. Okay, so how many of you wear glasses? All right, and how many of you felt at some point in your life you've overpaid for sunglasses, right? Okay, so that's sort of the founding story of Warby Parker. 4 guys in business school got together and realized that this was an industry that was just sort of antiquated and was ripe for disruption. They couldn't really understand why glasses cost so much. Why do they cost as much as an iPhone when they were pretty old technology, hundreds of years old, and hadn't really changed all that much. It's a pretty simple piece of technology. And so they set out to disrupt that industry. And what they found was that the entire industry is really run by one company called Luxottica, and so that might have been some of the materials that you shared, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself with things that you already know. But the idea is there's one company, Luxottica, it's an Italian-based company. They own basically the entire supply and distribution system of the optical industry. So everything from your eyewear-only brands like Ray-Ban, Oakley, Oliver People, they own all those companies, Persol. They own all of the exclusive licenses for a lot of major fashion brands, whether it's Polo or GK, that sort of thing. They also own all the distribution channels, so everything from the standalone optical shops that you might see around the city or as you travel, like the Lens Crafters, Home Vision, Sunglass Hut, and all of that. They also own all the in-store optical shops, so everything like a Walmart Optical, Target Optical, Sears Optical. And then they also own the second largest vision insurance plan in the United States called iMed. So when you look at that entire ecosystem, someone's like, oh, maybe that's why my glasses cost so much, and maybe I shouldn't. So that was sort of one part of the story. But the other part was there's this technology, the internet, and what a great way to go direct to consumers. And so the guys realized that they could go direct to consumer with this product. There would be some pain points. It would be trying to get consumers to shift their behavior to realize they could actually buy eyeglasses online, which is a category that you're used to trying on in a store. And so they had to get around that pretty major hurdle. But when you see things like diapers and diamonds being sold online, there was really no reason that they could think of that eyeglasses couldn't do the same thing. So that was sort of the birth story of Warby Parker. Where I came in was a few years later. I knew one of the founders, Neil Blumenthal, who you mentioned earlier, from when I worked in nonprofit prior to Google. So my job immediately prior to Google was with a funder called Acumen Fund. If any of you are familiar with Acumen, so it's nodding head. So I was the general counsel of Acumen Fund prior to joining Google. And during that time, we funded an organization called Vision Spring, which worked in the vision space, giving glasses to people in need, so distributing glasses in this sort of sustainable model that Acumen really fosters and funds. And Neil was the executive director of Vision Spring at the time, so that's when we overlapped. And then he went off to business school, met his co-founders, started this company. In the meantime, I went to Google, and then our paths sort of crossed again many years later. This is a very long answer to your question, but I'm getting it.
I'm just here in case there's a lull.
So we eventually, sort of ran into each other again at various tech conferences and the like, and he one day was just like, hey, would you consider being our general counsel? And truthfully, I said no. I was like, well, we've got a really good gig at Google. I'm really comfortable. I've been there for going on 6 years. Was being challenged in all these wonderful ways. It's a great place to practice law. Fed really well, it was a really good gig. And so I was really looking to disrupt my own life, I suppose, in that way. And I was like, well, I'll meet you, and maybe I know some people that might be interested. And as we started talking about what they were trying to do and what they were disrupting and sort of the ethos of the company, the value system, and all the social innovation work that they were doing, and having known Neil for so long, knowing that it was a truly authentic thing. It wasn't a marketing gimmick. It wasn't something that they added on like, oh, this will get people to buy from us and come back. It was really, truly part of the culture and the DNA of the organization. It started getting more and more compelling. And it was like, well, maybe there's something here that I could actually add value in. And when they threw in the social innovation piece, and like, well, actually, we would love for you to run this. That wasn't a position that was sort of being recruited for, but just because of our relationship and my background, I was like, well, could you head up all legal and social innovation? I was like, well, that's a really interesting, unique combination that sort of brings together previously siloed areas of my life, where I worked in nonprofit and then I worked as a lawyer, and I did, sort of kept them separate, and in a way that was a really interesting mix and sort of unique. So honestly, was sort of lucky that it all happened that way. And I think looking back, I could, convince I could probably create a narrative that makes it sound really well thought out, but it really wasn't. It was sort of just being opportunistic and taking things that I was interested in and then finding this opportunity that brought all that stuff together.
That's kind of a theme we've been hearing from other people who are in these sort of amazing positions. It's like, you know, you work hard at something for years, you develop a talent or a skill, an expertise, an experience, and then, you know, if you're paying attention and you're lucky, whatever that means, one day an opportunity, you know, maybe either you make it or it comes along that sort of marries a lot of those things. And then it's like, well, I would say you need to say yes, but it sounds like you did deliver it.
I did, yeah. I think you know, I think you have to. It was an intentional move. It was a big move for me. Scary to give up that comfort of Google, and Google's the kind of company like you leave once, right? I mean, people go back, but you kind of leave. You've got that one shot to really have that impact and make that big move, and that was a bit of just pressure. And I think you know, I talked about it with a lot of people who had left, and they're like, well, it's like you're standing on the edge of this cliff, and you're like, do I jump down? Like, do I jump down? At some point, it's like, all right, forget it, I'm just gonna go. Like, I'm gonna take it and see what happens. And what's the worst that can happen? Probably not that much. I mean, I suppose things can be horrible, but hopefully, but really, it's like, how bad is it going to be? And it was a well-funded VC. It wasn't really that much of a risk. It's not like I was going to 4 guys in a garage. I'm a lawyer.
Also not a bad move sometimes. Just on the guys in the garage. That's where everything starts.
I'm watching. I'm finding those people.
Okay, and so what is your role? I mean, it is an unusual combination. I mean, I'm curious how you manage your duties and what are the unique opportunities of those two expertise combining, like the legal aspect of things and then the social innovation aspect of things. And can I guess at something?
Sure.
The B Corp status, which I'd love for you to talk about. I'm wondering if that was something you brought to the table, or, you know, what could you, I mean, that feels like where policy and legal meet with social innovation.
It's a great question. I think that's definitely one area. I didn't bring that to the table. We were already a certified B Corp before I came on board. We haven't changed our legal status to B Corporation status, but it's sort of like a LEED certification. There's an independent nonprofit that evaluates on companies and sort of gives them the symbol to put on their, you know, website or whatever, like just to be able to use that nomenclature. So that pre-existed, but then we've been involved in some of the legislation changes and getting Delaware to enact legislation and being supportive of that movement. It's really been driven by the B Corp people. Yeah, they're fantastic. But interestingly, when I was at Acumen, I was involved in a very early conversation about B Corp, and I was like, this is the craziest idea, no one's ever going to do this, and it's really wrong. Like, the next job I have, it's like, this is a real thing. Which is
what aspect of it was crazy to you at the time?
I just didn't understand the purpose. It was kind of like, well, why would somebody, who's going to change? Like, what are you really going to get the legislators to change and create this new status? Like, it just didn't, it seemed so impossible to me, because I think, I didn't think about disrupting that kind of thing, and I wasn't in the weeds enough to really understand what it could mean. But I think there's been such a shift in terms of what, like what you were saying, sort of the capitalist, you know, situation that I didn't anticipate 7, 8 years ago. Being an Acumen, it felt still quite siloed.
It was.
Yeah.
I think things have moved
I feel like in
so
the past
quickly.
2 years, there's been a big shift. So I think I just didn't see where there would be enough movement to make this a real thing, where people would be like, oh no, a for-profit, for-purpose company is a real thing, as opposed to just being something that you just did. You know, so it was an interesting shift. So there's been an opportunity to do things like that, where the roles sort of blend. There's been an opportunity to take a position on things like net neutrality or other big issues that we care about as a tech company that I'm personally super interested in. And so that's been really fun to kind of blend those worlds a bit. But for the most part, they're kind of separate still, right? Because the functions that I serve as GC are sort of your typical GC things, and those have to keep moving. And social innovation, I think, gives me a place to be super creative, which is fun. So I think for me and my multi-interested background, you know, that I sort of this multifaceted background of things that I get excited about at a creative level, It gives me a place to kind of house those and direct some of those energies. So if I come up with a crazy idea, it's like, ooh, we can do that through social innovation. You know, if we want to do a nonprofit collaboration, there's a creative aspect to that, and getting to apply on designs or apply on what marketing materials might look like for that collaboration. That's not something they're normally going to ask a lawyer, but in the social innovation world, I get to have an opinion. People might actually listen to it, which is fun. So it's, you know, it's kind of a nice combination, but in a lot of ways, sort of on a day-to-day level, it's a lot of switching gears.
Yeah, sounds like it. Interesting. And the you mentioned collaboration, and I know you've done this recent collaboration with 826.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little?
Sure.
I tutored for them a little bit.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
They're such a great organization.
Are you guys familiar with 826?
Yeah, a bit. 826 is sort of, they're very close to the McSweeney's publishing house, if you know McSweeney's out of San Francisco. Beautiful design. Dave Edgar started McSweeney's. And 826 is basically a creative writing lab, I suppose, for inner city youth, you know, for kids that are at risk, and sort of giving them an opportunity to express themselves through writing and teaching them creative writing skills. And so we've been working with 826 for a while, where we've given them money for various partnerships that we've done that have been for-profit, you know, sort of more marketing-driven collaborations, I'd say. So things that we've done with Beth, that we did in spring. Yeah, Beth Musician, we did this great collaboration with him. And we did some things with Man of Steel, the movie that came out last summer, and the profits of that went to 826 also. So we sort of had this relationship where they would just randomly get this check from us, and they didn't know why. And so we were sort of just sending them money. And then as we got to know them more, like, you know, our value system really lines up nicely, and they represent so much of what we're really passionate about at Warby, things like literacy and education and kids and all those sort of core values that are exciting to us. And we thought, well, who better to do a collab with? That was sort of the first one that I spearheaded. That was an exciting one to pull on, and they're just such a great organization. So it was a lot of fun to do. It just launched about a week ago, I think, and it's doing well. So the way the nonprofit collaborations work is that we design a great pair of glasses, sort of inspired by that nonprofit, and then give a portion of the proceeds to support some program. And in this particular case, we supported 2 literary magazines that 826 New York and LA put out. Each of the chapters are separate, and so they have this review that they do in New York, and they did sort of a fun book in LA. It was kind of a one-off, and we gave them money to make those things happen.
That's great.
It was fun.
Cool. Yeah. And you have to talk about a little bit about buy a pair, give a pair.
Sure.
Because that feels like really central to what has made Warby Parker the model that it is.
Yeah, I mean, buy a pair, give a pair is really the crux of our social innovation program, and so I think that's what people know best about us, if they know anything about our social innovation. A lot of people don't know about it, but if they do, they probably know about that. And our model is a little bit different. It's very much, you know, that acumen is sort of infused, like the sustainable model. So what we do is, for every pair we sell, we distribute one to someone in need through a nonprofit partner, Vision Spring, which is the organization that Neil used to work with. And we have a few other partners too that we work with, like CES, which is Community Enterprise Solutions. And they do the work in the country, locally, in a sustainable way, meaning that they're creating a market-based solution for addressing that particular issue. So we donate the money to purchase the glasses, so they don't have that cost, but then the nonprofit buys the glasses and they sell them or consign them to vision entrepreneurs, as they call them. So in India, let's say, you could be a local rural man or woman that is sort of creating a job for yourself by administering a basic eye exam to your community and then selling glasses in your community. And so they're providing a low-cost, affordable option in that community, and we're supplying the glasses. So last summer we just hit a really big milestone. We're only, as you said, he's pretty young, 4.5 years old as my daughter, as I like to say. And we distributed 1 million pairs. Which is really exciting.
That's great. On the website, I feel like your website is beautiful.
Thanks.
And also, I mean, there are videos on there. I don't know if you were. I checked out a couple, just like personal stories.
Yeah.
Which
Some of the entrepreneurs that were helped.
Yeah.
They're great stories.
And also the language around. I like the frankness of the language around why the model is the way it is, and why we're not just giving glasses away to people for free. There was something about. There was something about even, I mean, it really came even down to local styles and letting people, I thought this so interesting. Like I wouldn't have thought. Like you actually create a market for these glasses, and people feel not only like, oh, I've got my glasses and I can read, but sort of stylish and able to express themselves in a way that feels fashionable and up to date. And
super important.
It's so cool.
Super important. I think fashion matters to everybody. You know, it doesn't matter if you're poor or if you're wealthy. People care how they look, and especially if they're on your face. And something like glasses, like you're walking around with these, you know, they matter as much as they matter to all of us. It matters to people who are poor too. And the folks that we're serving are really working poor. They have money. They have, you know, they might be earning just a few dollars a day, but they will spend that money on things that make a difference in their lives. So if you can show them the impact of a pair of glasses, it's one of the most, it's one of the least expensive poverty alleviation tools. Right. So there's studies that show that a pair of glasses to somebody who needs them can increase your earning potential by 20%. And that's huge. Imagine that. So one extra day of work a week. Yeah. It's a really big thing. And if you can get them a pair of glasses for a few dollars, it's huge. And the reason that it's important, I think, to charge people or to have that piece, that sort of energy exchange, so that people value it too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I think of all the nerdy
so beautifully put. Energy exchange.
Yeah, it's like an energy.
It is. It is.
And money is a form of energy. So whether it's money or service or something, it's important. And I think of, I don't wear glasses. I need them, but I don't wear them.
I thought it was mandatory at the company.
I don't have to have that eyesight to work at Warby Parker. Working on this. So I do need reading glasses. I just keep forgetting them. I have them in my bag. I'm terrible at it. But you know, I've got a million pairs of sunglasses from starting at Warby. And I don't pay for them. I'm the general counsel, so they're giving me sunglasses. I don't know where any of them are. Like, they're all over my apartment. And it's just, you know, like when you don't pay for stuff, like just, you value it differently. That's terrible. Like, I'm embarrassed to admit it, but it's true. Like, you just, you know, they're sitting in a handbag. My daughter's playing with another pair. Like, they're all over. And if I paid even $5 for them, I'd be like, put those down.
Right.
My glasses are going to break them.
Right.
It's human nature. It's not because I'm like rich. I'm like, oh, buy another pair. It's not that. It's because you just treat it differently.
Yeah. So true. So true. And that's tricky stuff to communicate, I think, sometimes on a website, or it's the kind of thing that someone might find some way to be skeptical about or critical of, and it's addressed very sort of openly on the website, which I thought was very nice. I don't know if you're going to know anything about this, but I was just curious. In the articles or in the lore of the company, Jack Kerouac figures prominently, and somewhere I read that Dharma Bums, everybody's given a copy of Dharma Bums when they're first hired. Did you read it? I haven't read it either, so we're going to have a great talk.
I know. I don't tell her.
Okay,
I run it. I'm going to read it this week.
Well, I want to know, I mean, I just loved the idea of, it's such a nice gesture.
I've heard it.
I know, I can't wait to read it.
I can't believe I haven't read it.
Let's go read it right now.
No, I have not read it. I'm going to read it.
Well, let's talk about it as a gesture, because that did happen.
I have it. I have it somewhere. I never.
Again, you didn't pay for it. You didn't pay for it. And you didn't pay for it.
No, I'm sweating.
I'm degrees in here, by the way.
It's not because I'm more tired and fully covered. Yes, I have not read it. I'm going to read it.
Here's all I want to know. I don't need to know anything about the content at all. I just think that it's a nice, when I read that, it was a simple gesture that said a lot to me about how important it is to the founders to have the culture, how important the culture
is. So important.
And I would love to know any, like just your take as an insider. I mean, a lot of what's interesting to us as a group is what it's like to work at a company that values social innovation. Like, what is the culture about? What are some gestures or things that you do that sort of reinforce culture in the company?
Well, they also give us a notebook. I've used that. They also gave us pretzels, and I ate those. I tried to be the culture is really important. I've worked with a few places that have very strong culture. Google has a very strong culture, continues to have a very strong culture, right? It's a very strong culture, and very mission-driven from my perspective. One of the reasons I went to Google, I never thought I'd go back and work for men. I was like, I'm going to stay nonprofit, and I was like, oh, they're going to pay me some money and give me stock. But also, it was, it was the culture, it was the mission, it was the idea of it being something bigger than just myself and my being a cog in the wheel. It's like really to this bigger purpose. Not preachy, but that was not calling, I wouldn't say, but it was really, I felt good about going to work every day. I was excited about what we were doing in the company, and that was really, really important to me. And that was very much part of Google, and that translates to Warby too. And I think that's a consistent theme between both Google and Warby from my perspective, at least, about that kind of greater purpose of what we're doing, and again, not in a preachy way, not in a weird way, but just in the idea that a corporation can do good in the world. It's not just about not doing harm and leaving the world in the same way that you found it. It's like, let's make it better. Let's challenge ourselves to make it better. We've been gifted all of these resources and all this opportunity, and it's our responsibility to do more. And so,
here's my question. Sure. How is that conveyed? Because I have to say, in all my years of working, I've never worked at a company with a culture like that. Partly because I worked in advertising for so many years, and partly because I've worked on my own for the last 7 years. So, I mean, my culture is amazing. But you know what I mean? Like, I consult with a lot of companies, and you can see the difference, like, immediately when you walk into a company that has no higher calling, or that has words on the wall that nobody. So how is it conveyed? How does it come through?
I think it really comes from the top. It comes from Neil and Dave. They're genuinely. I hope you all have the opportunity to interact with them at some point in time. They're just good guys. I wouldn't have gone to work for them if I didn't really believe in what they were doing. Just the people that they are. They're like, you can feel it. They're just like really good eggs. And so to me, that was what was the fun of it. It's just like, I want to work with people like that every day because they make me excited and proud to go and do what we're doing, and to speak on behalf of the company, and to do all those things, because I'm just excited about, it's not because I don't wear glasses, but this isn't a pain point that I experienced, but I was like, oh, yes, I paid $1,000 for my glasses, and then I broke them, and I didn't experience that. It was really, as they talk about it, they make such a compelling case that's so genuine, that it was hard not to believe that.
That's amazing.
And I think, we have the luxury of building that culture from scratch. So, as much as we're growing really quickly, we do have the luxury of, there's a lot of people who want to work for us, and we're lucky in that way, and so we can screen for that. You can tell very quickly people, like, why people want to come work for you, right? And everybody it's a huge recruiting and retention factor in innovation. So even if they're not working directly on it, even if they're working in customer experience or in tech or whatever, the fact that we do this is huge to everybody. I've heard anybody going, I don't really care about that. Everybody gets really excited about it.
And how many people is it, at headquarters? Or like what, because I know you have employees.
We have stores now. So we started moving into bricks and mortars. It's a very blended retail model. It's not just all online or all bricks and mortar. It'll be, I think the future of retail is both. People want to be able to do whatever they want, whether shop from their phone or go into the store and so we offer both of those options. So I think a lot of our growth will continue to be in retail just because we need people obviously to work in the stores. But we also just opened an office in Nashville just a few weeks ago, so that's really a lot of our, just a great city. Nashville. Loveless Cafe, if you've ever been down in Nashville. Good.
I have all their cookbooks.
Loveless, I have their cookbook too. I never cook from it, but
at least you have that book.
I know, I have the book. I bought the book. That's like my thing, is buying cookbooks, but it's amazing. So Nashville, we looked at a few other cities that we thought were interesting, easy, like New York, a place that we could build a second office. New York is obviously a really expensive place to continue to grow on a corporate level. And Nashville, kind of came up as one of the handful of cities that we dug a little bit deeper on.
So interesting. That feels that feels kind of revolutionary.
Yeah, it's like very New York. But there's a lot of companies that have they're, you know, like Eventbrite, and there's a few other ones that are down in Nashville, so there's a nice community, there's like sort of a look-alike community in a way, you know, there's a lot of young people, really smart people that want to stay in the South and they don't want to move to New York and work, and so it was like, well, what a great place to grow if we're going to grow customer experience and potentially tech. There's a lot of tech talent on there, so there's a lot of other, you know, sort of mirroring our corporate office that could grow down there and become a robust office, because I don't feel like we're just a red-headed stepchild together. But it's, so to answer your initial question, we're probably in our 300s at this point in terms of employee counts. We've grown a lot, but that includes all our retail.
Okay.
So maybe 150, 200 is in corporate.
Okay.
And that includes CX, or what we call customer experience.
So what kind of, in terms of social innovation, what kind of jobs, what kinds of positions, where do you see a need within the company? You were thinking that? Did you send that to me?
I was sending it to you.
Yeah. No, you're right. No, but I mean, from your vantage point, and especially as this is an emerging field. I mean, 3 years ago there was no program here. Yeah, I mean, we have all these people coming into the world, coming out into the job force. Such an old. Say workforce.
I don't think anyone ever.
Workforce. Workforce. Oh, no, Mark said it.
Not Brandon. I could be wrong. We can Google it and find out.
So, but all of these people, and it is a question that we often have, like, what are the jobs of the future in social innovation? Or, I mean, do you have designers on staff? What kind of challenges do designers solve from a social innovation standpoint or assessment standpoint?
Yeah, I don't know that there's, in our field, necessarily jobs per se that are social innovation.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's just the whole company.
Yeah.
Like everybody's part of the team. I mean, I've said this before that my team isn't 2, it's 300. Right. Like everybody is part of the team. So I think it's just having that way of thinking, I think is so important and such value that you can add to any company.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would be cautious of, I mean, if you're graduating from this type of program, like getting stuck in the CSR functions or siloed in a big company where you're like part of the marketing department and coming up with programming that's going to help the community, and then you're sort of siloed off and not really part of the rest of the ecosystem. I think that'll be a really big challenge, and it'll be interesting to see how you guys can shake that stuff up, because I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah.
You know, if I want to so I don't name a company, but like some big company that has the power to do a lot of good in the world, but where it's really seen as like a side thing.
Right.
I think
It's hot.
I don't know.
It is
hot.
I know, right.
She's like, I'm bored. I know my daughter's like, you're talking. So I don't know how to answer that. I mean, it's a really
so humbling, isn't it?
I don't know how to answer that. I think there's going to be this sort of B-Corp base that will just get stronger and stronger, and that by definition things are just going to move in that, like everything's just going to move in that direction, where you guys will just be leading the charge.
I totally agree.
You know, so that sort of thinking and that ethos is just going to be, you're ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
I think, and I think people are keen to do it, which is great. You know, what a shift as we talked about from a few years ago.
The keen to do it is really complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just working with a lot of legacy, like big companies.
Yeah. Like where do you even start with?
Yeah.
I think that's what's kind of exciting. Like you can kind of do anything. I mean, I feel like Warby, we have this design program and buy pair, give a pair. So that's sort of what I inherited. But everything else, we're sort of just like, well, this sounds interesting. Let's try that. It's really fun. I can come up, like I can think of things like let's do a course on social innovation. I'm like, yeah, who do we partner with? Like, let's just do that. And there's no one to really say no. It's like there's no rules around it. So you can just sort of make it up and get creative. And I think that's what's interesting about the field, is that you are all defining the field.
Yeah.
So whatever you want the jobs to be is what they'll be.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part.